Do authors and writers ever need to bend the rules, especially when they're fantasy authors? Because when writing most fantasy, the authors themselves are the ones who establish what the rules are and essentially creates them. So is there ever a need to bend the rules? Well, always an interesting question. I mean, there are cases where writers and authors kind of write themselves in those proverbial corners and have to figure out a way. So this is why you plan in advance, because guess what? Readers don't like when rules are broken or changed or dramatically bent in any way. Right now I'm working on wrapping up a second part of a Greek myth duology, and I'm coming up with a situation of how do I kind of bend the rules-ish. But it's very different because when working with Greek myth, there are a lot of inconsistencies, and I've mentioned this before, when it comes to timelines, especially, and these can be from regional differences in the stories that are told. They can be also from when the stories were created at various points in the history of the peoples that believe and created them. Now, with that said, I'm working on the very last chapter of this Greek myth duology. It is very important. And in Greek myth, there is one character that I kind of utilized and wrote as this long-term antagonist towards my main character. And I want to write a certain story about this person. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to the timelines of his tales, he has a dramatic and fairly agreed upon end. Now, I'm going to bend that so that the timeline makes more sense for this other story he's supposed to be involved with, but the timelines between the two don't match up. So I'm going to try to figure out a creative way to bend the storyline of this particular character from Greek myth to make it make sense for the purpose of my story. And my reasoning is the timelines just do not mesh up between one story and the other, so I'm kind of flipping them back and forth and going to do this roundabout way. But inherently, yeah, sometimes authors have get stuck in these unusual situations where the rules they set for themselves have to be bent, and the rule that's being bent in my case is that whenever I do work on Greek myths or retellings in general, I try to keep as true to form to that myth as possible, but then every so often I get in circumstances like this where I just have to change things up in order for my story to make sense.